All right. So we're here with our fourth podcast of 1% Better. And we're here to teach you guys principles that we use and I use every single day that can apply to your business, your family life, can apply to your jiu-jitsu, your craft, whatever you guys do. But all these principles will work in all these different baskets. So today, what if I told you the only thing that's keeping you from getting to your goals was you're stuck in your mindset? Okay, so a lot of the times our mindset is on autopilot. So if we stay in autopilot, we're going to have the same goals, have the same mission within the next 6 months or 1 year. But if we get out of that mindset and we create a new mindset, create new goals and pathways, that's the only way where we can get better. And so we have DY here. So let's talk about how was training today?
Yeah, training was good. We went to Tustin, went jiu-jitsu in Tustin. It's always good rounds there, good training. Yeah.
So I saw your rolls with Indy. How's your rolls at Indy? He's getting good.
Yeah, some good rolls at Indy. He's always a tough challenge. He's a beast.
Yeah, he's a beast. It's crazy to see how these kids are just growing every single day. Every week I see Indy and DY, like one's getting a growth spurt, the one's getting the best of each other. And then one of the parents was asking another parent, like, man, who's that kid with a mustache? And they're talking about DY. They're talking about you because, you're getting older and you're actually becoming an adult. And in 1 year, you're going to be an adult blue belt in the jiu-jitsu community. But that's all about jiu-jitsu. But let's talk about finances. So we've been working on our finances recently. I've been teaching you how to not make money, but look at money as a tool, because God gave us a blessing to have money and to be a good steward of money. So steward means like a manager. So God gave us this blessing to have money, but if we have the money and we don't know what to do with it, how to distribute it, how to help other people, it might go to waste. So God might not bless us there at this time. But as we get more knowledge and more blessings and we do the right thing, then we can help other people, add value to other people. For example, in our church, we tithe every single month, right? Our tithing means 10%. Okay. So whatever 10% I make after taxes, all that stuff. Taxes is what you pay Uncle Sam, who is the government. But we pay taxes either quarterly or monthly. But I'll take 10% of whatever I own after, I pay my staff, after I do all my bills. Then I'll get this 10% and I'll give it to the church. Why do I do that? In the beginning, it was really tough for me because I felt like that money was mine. I felt like, I worked for this money and I need to spend it because I deserve it. That was my desire. So when I was desiring money, I was actually worshiping the money. And when I worshiped the money, I could never get enough. And I would just hold on to it. And when I held on to it, my mindset was like, I need to make more money. And after a while, I found no satisfaction. I always felt like empty inside. But as I got older, I realized, charity, tithing, helping other people, that's what life is about. And that's what being a good steward is. Steward is spelled Steward. And part of the tithing, giving money back, is part of the process of being prosperous. So we'll go over that more in detail in just a bit. But right now we're in a bull market. A bull market means like the stock market's just going up. So DY has an account, a Robinhood account. And what plays did you make last week and how is it turning out?
Last week I bought 4 shares of Oracle and I bought it pretty low.
What was the price?
The price was 160.
160?
Right?
Yeah.
And since then it shot up to 170.
170.
So, yeah.
And after hours, it's even more right now. It's like 173, right? Mm. And that was only in 4 days. So that's a 5% increase. That's a lot of money, right? In 4 days. And you didn't have to do anything for it.
Yeah.
I know you bought this stock called Palantir a few, like 12 months ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And what can you talk to them about how much you bought Palantir for and how much it's worth right now?
So I bought Palantir about almost 2 years ago, and it was $80. And recently, it's shot up to like 140, right?
It's 140 right now,
Yeah.
and earnings is coming up next week, so it can go up and down. I got into Palantir when it was $15, and it was one of my good investments. And trust me, I've made a lot of bad investments, but I've made a lot of good investments. And with investments, we have to understand, out of 10, you might lose 8. But if you lose 8, that's okay because you're taking risks, okay? Some risks are okay. But those 2 that you do make is going to cover that all the 8 that you lost. And so we're going to look at the long game, right? DY, you're 15 right now. So we're going to look like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So we played this game called Cash Flow today. Cash Flow is a game created by Robert Kiyosaki. He's like the writer and the author of this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We read this book together. I read it the first time back in 2001. And every, 8 years, I'll read it again. And then this last time I read it with DY. And it opened up my mind a lot. So playing this game, can you explain what you learned or what you saw from this, how it opened up your eyes of looking at investing and all that stuff?
Yeah, it taught me a lot more about assets and liabilities, right? I learned how your expenses, they take a lot, right?
Yeah, your expenses. So in that game, DY was actually a medical doctor. How much were you making salary?
So my salary was about $14,000.
$14,000. And this is all a game, right? But how much was your expenses?
My expenses were about $9,000.
So $9,000 in expenses, right? But he's making $14,000. So I was a secretary and I was making $1,400, but my expenses were $800. But somehow when we kept playing, I kept getting the paydays and getting the good investments where I was able to have this passive income. And in this game, once your salary and your passive income meet, you can almost get out of your day job. So that's the whole goal of this game. So kids and teenagers, if you're over 12 or 13, that's what the game recommends. Ask your dad to play it with you or your mom. It's a pretty cool game, but it's gonna really show you how to look at a balance sheet and an income statement, okay? So how you look at cash is completely different than how the government looks at cash and how the housing market looks at cash. But the sooner you guys understand this concept, it's going to be really good for you because you're going to be changing your mindset as looking at money as it's going to buy you whatever you want rather than you're using the money as a tool to help other people to increase your prosperity, if that makes any sense. But we'll talk about that more. But anyway, let's talk about your diet right now. So right now you're trying to gain weight. How much do you weigh?
Yeah, I weigh about 120 now. So I've been gaining weight, eating a lot. Yeah.
So what's your goal for Pans or your next tournament?
My next tournament, I want to gain about like 2 or 3 more pounds so I could be at the top of the weight division.
And what are we working on, or what are you working on?
For jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I've been working on my passing a lot, just keeping the control. Yeah.
All right. So when we're working on jiu-jitsu or whatever sport we do, we always want to have purpose and intention. One of the questions that I get asked as an instructor is, some kids are separating themselves from the other kids really fast, and you can see it day by day. Shout out to Day by Day Jiu-Jitsu. But the parents asking, hey, why are the kids getting better? It's really the work they're putting in. So obviously DY is going in there every single day. Some of the kids go in every single day. They're working out every single day. And so the work you put in is going to represent the craft that you display at the tournament or even inside the training room. So we're always trying to work with intent. So whenever you guys are doing training, don't do it mindlessly. We need to make sure that we need to have a purpose that week. So our purpose this week was, and last week was, half guard passing, right? Professor Kyle and Professor Nate showing the half guard passing, and we're trying to control the hips, because in passing, when we're doing outside passings, it's a lot of dynamic movement, but sometimes we forget to trap the hips, and then the opponent gets to escape, and then we're working for no reason. But if we're intentful of passing and then holding the hips and then getting to the shoulders and then getting to the head, now we have more intent on the structure of passing, and that way your opponent's not going to escape. So whether it's passing or guard, I would recommend, hey, always write down what you need to be doing that week or that 2 weeks, study it and make it yours. That way you can always be ahead of the curve, and you're not mindlessly going into class and just mindlessly learning something. Okay, there's got to be intention involved. You got to make sure that you're understanding the concepts and why you're doing it. Okay, those are the people that are going to get better faster and have their game just a lot better. And this also goes for dentistry or goes for anything, right? Any skill you can lose your skill very fast. And one of the questions that I got asked last week was, do you get nervous before you do these big surgeries? And I like to do a lot of like all-on-4 surgeries just because it's such a great surgery. All-on-4 surgeries are basically patients who have what is called a terminal dentition. What does that mean? Terminal means the end. Dentition means teeth. So that means it's the end of their teeth. They have no options. We got to pull them all out, or it's going to be very, very expensive to save them. All right. So cost wise, it's more efficient, or it's better for them to just remove their teeth and get implants and new teeth. And when I first started doing these surgeries, I would be so nervous. I would be having imposter syndrome where I'm like, I don't deserve to be doing this. Why am I even doing this? Just kind of like when we go to a tournament, right? Like in the beginning, you get nervous. You're like, why am I doing this? All those feelings of emotions of being fearful, being scared. Oh, what if I don't perform? But if you did the preparation, you did the workup, you studied, you did the analysis. Analysis means you prepared the best you can, and now we're going to expect the best outcome. So there's this thing in medicine and dental where they call it the practice. It's a dental practice. It's a medical practice. And really, we're practicing the best of our abilities, and we want the best outcome for the patient, okay? So we don't know if the outcome's going to be very good or very bad. Sometimes the patient is very sick. Sometimes it doesn't work out. 99% of the time, everything is fine, okay? But sometimes they don't follow directions. Maybe they're a smoker and the healing doesn't go well, okay? So there's a lot of components to it. And so all these thoughts go through my head. What ifs? And so the what ifs bring me and you and everybody else in this world a lot of fear. The fear almost to say, maybe I shouldn't do this, okay? But it's very important that we prepare and we do not let the fear decide our outcome of whether we're going to execute or do something or not, okay? If you didn't prepare and you have the fear, maybe you shouldn't do it, or maybe you shouldn't compete, or maybe you shouldn't go out there and do what you're fearful of. But if you did the preparation, you worked hard, and you're so ready, then you should not let that fear stop you. That's putting yourself into a situation where it's called uncomfortable. So you have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. That's like a jiu-jitsu vocabulary term. So when I'm uncomfortable, And when I'm comfortable in uncomfortable situations, whether it's my first time doing this special surgery, or if I'm under a really very heavy side mount on somebody, someone's beating me up really bad, and I'm still comfortable, that brings me perseverance for the long term. So now when I do these surgeries, I'm like, man, this is easy. I've done it so many times. This is repetition. I expect the same outcome every single time. And it gets easier and easier and easier. Okay. So life is like that. Once you keep doing something and we understand that the principle of fear is trying to stop you. Some people say it's actually Satan that gives you the fear to stop and not do anything so you can't grow. Then you're going to be stuck. Okay. So that's the mindset I was talking about in the beginning. So we have to understand that we have to change our mindset. And we have to see these Maxes and Johnnies that we were talking about. Johnny, so whenever there's a fear, we'll just name him Johnny. Okay, Johnny the fear monger. And every time you're going to do something really, really hard or really important, Johnny's going to come out every single time. He is going to say, hey, you're not good enough. This isn't your time. Maybe we should just go back home, and maybe we should just, go to McDonald's and then just chill, because that life is better like that. But then you're going to have this voice, Max, who's going to say, man, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be fun and it's going to be exciting. And you've prepared for this. So let's go see what's on the other side. So Johnny is a pretty strong voice, because Johnny knows everything and from the past. He knows all our pain. So he knows our failures and what it felt like to fail. So Johnny's always like, hey, he's trying to protect us from that feeling. But Max on the other side is trying to help us grow. And he's going to keep motivating us and say, hey, let's see the reward on the other side. Maybe we can help someone. Maybe we can make someone's life better. So remember, you're going to have these two voices. As long as you prepare, you're going to listen to Max. If you haven't prepared, probably listen to Johnny, because Johnny's probably right. You probably will fail if you didn't prepare. So that's very important to understand. One of my favorite Bible verses is Isaiah, where we're going to talk about Joshua 1:9. Your favorite Bible verse is Joshua 1:10?
Yeah, it's Joshua 1:9.
Oh,
It's on the back of my gi too.
Yeah, it's on the back of his gi. What's Joshua 1:9?
In Joshua 1:9, God says, have I not commanded you? Do not be afraid and not be... Wait, God says, have I not commanded you? Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
So if we understand that part, the Lord your God will be wherever you go, then you have nothing to fear. We're set on autopilot, because that's what we believe. That's why our belief is very important. One of my favorite verses is actually the verse right before, which says, thy word shall not depart from thy mouth, and thou shalt meditate on it day and night, and do according to all that is written therein. Then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, then thou shalt have good success. So that whole speech right there, thou shalt be prosperous and thou shalt have good success. That's a promise. But with the promise becomes a command. The promise, before the promise, is a command. What's that command? You got to meditate on the law day and night. How do you meditate on this law, right? Do I just sleep on a book? No. The way I meditate on it, and I believe the best way, and I've been trying it, is actually memorizing scripture. Because once I memorize the scripture and I have it within my heart and my brain, I'm in autopilot, because I know exactly what I need to be doing. I know exactly what the principles are, because once the principles are set, I'm on autopilot. And the one consistent thing that I've seen in my life, and I have backtracked or backslid huge from the church. I did a lot of bad things. Reason being is because I wanted to test God, I think. I really wanted to test him, see if he'd bring me back. And time again, he always pulled me back. He always whispered into my head, And it might sound super hocus pocus to some people, but there's a reason why the Bible is the longest written history book. It's the history book that's been proven in ages. Okay. If you don't believe it, yeah, no problem. But for me, that's what really got me going. And, I wanted to share that with you guys. And so that being said, the mindset is going to be very, very important, and make sure you're always pushing your mind to another level. And a lot of it's going to be uncomfortable for you. Okay. So this week, if you're trying to get healthier, if you're trying to get whatever you're trying to do 1% better, it's going to take a little bit of discomfort. It's not going to be easy. Right? Like, we're going to train. I know my training is going to be hard. I had a couple blue belts today that came in, and we went round after round after round, and my hips are hurting. I'm beat up. My fingers are hurting. But I know mentally, and for my game and for my business and for my family, I know this is really good for me. Okay. So I like to put myself in these tough positions, and that way we can set an example for a lot of other people. So what do you think about these steroid allegations? Like, what do you know about steroids, and how are they bad for you?
So steroids, I know about steroids because, a lot of people use them in jiu-jitsu because it makes you stronger and, just easier when you fight when you're stronger. And, why are they bad for you?
Well, what do you think's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years if you use steroids? What do you think is going to happen?
If you use steroids, you're going to have a lot of health problems, 5 years, you're going to have, your heart's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Maybe your brain, your testosterone. And yeah, that's what I know.
Yeah. So basically, if you use steroids, DY, it's going to make your heart pump really hard. Okay. So you can get your heart like thickened. And if your heart gets really bad or unhealthy, you only have one heart, man, right? What are you going to get, a heart transplant? If you get a heart transplant, pretty much when you're young, you're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to do jiu-jitsu, wherever you go, you're going to have to take this medicine to calm your heart down, right? Also, if you're taking steroids and you stop taking steroids, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know what does happen.
So you get weak again. And then now you were strong before, you had this superhuman power, and now you're weak. You're not even half as strong as you were before. And now you have to live with that for the rest of your life. So I think mentally you'll get kind of screwed up. Like, man, I used to beat this guy up every single day. I used to win all the tournaments, and now you can't do the steroids because you're sick. Now it's going to bring you down mentally, physically, and also spiritually. God created your body to act a certain way. It's supposed to be in balance. So with the steroids, you don't need, so basically your body's going to say, oh, I don't need to produce my own testosterone anymore. So when you do take the steroids, your body's not going to produce it anymore. So later on, if you're going to have kids, guess what? You might not be able to have kids. And guess what God's best creation is for you? Is for you to multiply and have kids like Abraham did, or anybody, right? Because that's part of a blessing in life. But if you're so short-minded and then you just want to take steroids to win, if winning in jiu-jitsu is your main goal in life, right? And you're willing to take steroids, especially at your age, dude, you're almost going backwards, right? So we understand there's all these components in life, all these parts, right? There's kids later on for you. There's finances, you got to work, you got to do all these things, right? But if you start cheating now, then later on in the future, you might cheat at everything you do, right? You might lose the trust in yourself. That's the way I look at it. But when you're 18, you could do whatever you want, right? It's your choice. But hopefully we guide you good enough. You have the good role models not to do that stuff and to win, because God gave you everything that you need to win. He gave you a strong mind. He gave you a strong body. He's giving you the knowledge to get better. He's giving you, all the support. So that's, and even if you do lose, who cares, right? You learn from it and you get better and you teach other people. So that's the mindset shift that we need here. Sometimes we're caught up, we want to always have these goals, but these goals sometimes take over, and we want these goals at all costs. Remember, we all have a purpose, and we have to let our purpose do the job. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed everything. This was a nice little podcast here we did today. So today's a Sunday night. So what I want all you guys to do, I want you guys to follow us if you want to get 1% better a day. I want you guys to get ready for the whole week. I want you guys to start meal prepping, making your breakfast so you save time. Do this all ahead of time. Meal prep, get your schedule for exercise ready, because at the end of the week, you're going to ask yourself, what did I accomplish this week? Did I get 1% better? And if your answer is, I did get 1% better, but if you didn't get 1% better, let's see what happened. Don't be too hard on yourself. Keep watching the podcast. We'll give you more tips on how to get 1% better. All right,